Hello everybody, Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the best kill team channel on YouTube. Unless of course you're aware of literally any other channel on YouTube. I'm sat down at my computer again because I have to read, and if there's one thing we all know, it's that reading is for losers, so don't you take that hit. I'll take the hit for the team, and I'm going to read this article to you. Throughout this, we're going to learn their faction rule, we're going to learn their second faction rule, and we're going to take a look at a data sheet, which is cool. So let's get straight into it. So do we need the fluff? Nah, not really. So basically, these are the Celestian Insidiants. They are not the novitiates. The novitiates, of course, kind of in the name, are the team that are there to be the scrubs, the noobs. And now we are getting the real sisters in. These are they're not just the battle sisters. These are the Celestian Insidiants. The Celestian Insidiants, or Celestians in general, are the elite of the elite. So this is really cool. So first up, we have inspiration. Whenever a friendly Celestian Insidiant operative incapacitates an enemy operative that has a wound stat of 6 or more, that friendly operative becomes inspiring. So you become inspiring. Not inspired, you are inspiring. Then, so if you get a kill, you become inspiring. Additionally, if you perform the charge action before it moves, it becomes inspiring. Ooh. When you are inspiring, you have severe. Nice. So this is an interesting one, I think. Basically, I feel they could have just worded it as long as this. Sorry, if they had a proper rule system, they could have instead said, whenever you kill a model that or incapacitate a model that doesn't have the expendable keyword. They could have said that. They have not. Instead, they've said it has to be 6 or more health. But they don't do rules that way. So instead, they've gone with 6 or more, which basically means anything that isn't inspiring, expendable. Or you perform the charge action. I also really like that they put here perform the charge action before it moves, it becomes inspiring. Because, in case you don't know, the way the rules are worded, that kind of isn't how it would normally occur. Basically, Kill Team is a whole jumble of rules, very poorly thought out. At this point, unfortunately, it feels like they know what they want their rule set to be, and they're slowly patching things in, so it's spread all over the place. In case you don't quite know what I'm talking about here, what I mean is they did a whole bunch series of FAQs and like update erratas to define for everybody when you can actually modify the stats on something. Like, when does that happen? For example, a great question that many people will come across is in the fight action. If you both roll and you get your hits, and then one of you goes below your half health points, so you're injured, do you lose your hits? That's an interesting question that isn't instantly obvious. And so they've put in a bunch of rules that kind of define that timing and many other timings when it comes to the modification of stats. And this is one where they said, no, it happens before the move. So you do perform the charge, but then before you move, you get a change to your stats. Cool. Nice. That's something that comes up quite often. For example, now that Wrecker Crew, when they charge, they get +1 APL now. Before, it was nice and easy. Now, when do you get the +1 APL? We know, because we know that it's before you've made the move, same as this, but it's not inherent in the rule set. Anyway, we then get Martyrdom. So we get Martyrdom, and we get Weapons of the Witch Hunters, which they haven't put here. Okay, that's fine. Will it tell us here what they do? Their final ability, Weapons of the Witch Hunters, give them just about every tool possible to stop psychics from getting up to their tricks. We won't go deep into it here. Oh, okay, all right. Because it's a little long. Warcom is telling us their rules are long? No. Oh my god, okay. All right, fine. But just imagine your Insidiant Superior holding up a big sign with no on it. No power to you. Cool, glad to hear it. So let's read Martyrdom. So, whenever an inspiring, friendly Celestian Insidiant operative is incapacitated, before it is removed from the kill zone, select one other friendly operative that operative is visible to or within 6 inches of it. Then, that selected operative gains 1 benediction from the following. Incapacitated operatives cannot be selected for a benediction. Okay, so step 1, you need to become inspiring, which means kill a dude that isn't expendable, or perform a charge. You are then inspiring, so you have severe on everything. Then when you die, when you become inspiring and then die, then you can do this, which is pick somebody visible to or within 6. So either somebody all the way across the other side of the board that you are visible to, or can't see them, but they're within 6. Same rules are always going to apply here. You can never measure through a close quarter wall, but you could measure through a Volcus wall, okay? I'm also going to point this out before I read the Martyrdom thing, sorry, because this is something I realized. Note it, normally, I can tell some pedants out there are already annoyed because the way this is worded, we all know what it means, but I'm just pointing this out, that might come up, is visible to or within 6. That means, rules as written, if you are both visible to and within 6, you can't do this. Which is why they always say and/or visible to, or with and/or within 6. We know that they mean they mean and/or. I would never ever dare to tell somebody that no, you cannot, because you're both visible and within 6. That is clearly not what they mean here. And at first I thought that maybe they're kind of doing this to lighten up the rule set and the pedantry a bit. But I suspect that if you read some of their ploys, they will use and/or. So maybe this was just a typo. Anyway, here are the 4 things you can do as your benediction. So you've charged or you've killed somebody, you've then died, and then somebody visible or within 6 can get +1 APL apart from your leader. They can get ceaseless on all of their data card weapons. That just means not grenades, to be clear. They can heal D3 +2, or they can immediately perform a free charge or dash, but if it's a charge, it can only be 3 inches. But you must end closer to the inspiring operative. There you go. So, interesting. Interesting. The very obvious thing here is going to be +1 APL, right? As soon as you're seeing a way to get 3 APL on your team, that is the default way to become stronger. It just multiplies your force exponentially, right? This is all going to come down to how much in reality are you going to be inspiring and then die? And then how many models do you have to lose to buff your models, your remaining models? And like, what's that ratio of the people that die have to do enough to like to get their points back, if you want to use a 40k term there, or get their worth, their use out of them before they die to buff somebody else. So it's going to be quite interesting. In general, I would say that I actually really like this mechanic because very often in Kill Team, sorry, not Kill Team, this isn't really a Kill Team thing, but very often we see snowball mechanics, which means the more you win, the more you win, right? This is very directly a catch-up mechanic, which will keep this team in the game for longer. So I actually really quite like this. And it's definitely going to make, if they have the balance right on this team, it's going to make the team really interesting and add another layer of question for the opponent, in the form of, do you actually want to get the kill? That's really interesting because they're not doing anything to you. This is no feels bad. This is no gotcha. This is no interrupt. This is no, oh, I've tricked you. This is just, hey, when you kill me, as you want to do, I'm going to get stronger, just so you know. And so the opponent can take that information and say, okay, I'm going to do my best to not kill you and see if I can still win. And I'm only going to get the very few kills that I absolutely have to. And I think that's a really interesting mechanic to play with, if they have the balance level right. And we then drop down to the datasheet. So here we have a lot of words. Lovely. Love words. That's great. So let's start with our basic datasheet here. We've got APL 2, move 6, save 3, wound 9. Ow, my hand, that really hurt. I think we can all agree that a 9 wound is a good number, okay? We prefer a 10, but 9 is very nice. This puts you out of any potential one-hit range, for sure, and gives you and especially with that 3-up save, makes it actually quite difficult to be shot and killed by like standard gunfire, which a lot of the 7 wound models are very susceptible to. So you have a Blessed Broadsword, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/6, lethal 5, brutal. So it's a pretty standard power weapon there, as we would expect to see from many of our elite teams. But you're only 4 attacks because you're not a genetic freak. But you do have brutal, which is nice. But the lethal 5, so all good. Hitting on 3s always nice. If you've heard me before, you know that I hate hitting on 4s. So there we go. So let's read Bladed Stance first, because Zealous Ultimatum is clearly long AF, as foretold. Bladed Stance: whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating, you can resolve one of your successes before the normal order. If you do, that success must be used to block. So getting to block before the enemy is nice, but with 4 dice, we read Zealous Ultimatum, and we don't know what the rest of their buffs are, but you can expect to hit with 3 dice. How often do you want to use one of those 3 dice on a block? It's going to be one of those niche situations where I guess it's mainly going to come up where you've already fought or damaged the enemy, and the enemy is within 1 hit range, and they're injured, and they know that if they fluff a roll, they can't just one tap you, because you'll be able to, like, that does come up. But with 4 dice, you're not regularly going to want to block first. Again, I'm talking about fighting into Marines, because that's what I fight into all the time. And that's what I have to think about. And they are the most played teams. If you're not thinking about how does this team beat Marines, I don't know what you're thinking about, to be honest. So we then get Zealous Ultimatum. Once per battle, Strategic Gambit. Select one enemy operative within 8 inches of this operative and issue an ultimatum. Your opponent must accept or decline that ultimatum. If it's a non-player operative, roll 1d6. On a 4-up, the ultimatum is accepted, otherwise it's declined. Okay, so this actually confused me a while ago. I was reading it, and it's a long rule, and I somehow got the impression that you always rolled the dice on the 4-up, but no. So if it's just a person, they get to say, I accept, or they say, I don't accept. Nice. Okay. But if it's an NPO, so narrative bullshit. Okay, all right. I think it's possible that in my review of this book, I actually missed that out completely, and I thought you had to always roll. Anyway, if the ultimatum is accepted, so basically, enemy's got their guy there, you've just got initiative, you're saying, right, strategic gambit, I pick that guy that you know you can charge, I issue you a challenge. Do you accept an ultimatum? Do you accept? If they accept the challenge, the ultimatum, whenever this operative is fighting against or retaliating against that specific enemy, add 1 to the attack stat of this operative's Blessed Broadsword. So you go to a 5. Okay, so that's how you get the 5. That's really good. The first time this operative incapacitates that enemy operative while fighting or retaliating during the battle, add 1 to the attack stat of this operative's Blessed Broadsword until the end of the battle. In either case, this is a max of 5. Cool. So that's really good. Obviously, as I just said, when you're 4 dice, you probably don't have the dice lying around to do a block. But if you manage to go 5, that's really good. This is obviously going to be very different into different teams. If you're into Marines, and you've fought, you're probably dead by the second time. You don't need more dice. You don't need more dice. By this time, you're fighting somebody else for the second time, right? Cool. However, if the ultimatum is declined, whenever that enemy operative, so the one you selected, is fighting against or retaliating against a friendly, so any operative, any of your friendlies, subtract 1 for the attacks out of that enemy operative's weapons. That'd be interesting to figure out, like, what's the best way around it. And is it always in melee? Fighting against or retaliating against? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's no point using this on a gunner, really, unless you know 100% you're getting that melter this turn, and you just want to take them from 4 dice to 3 dice, just to make sure you definitely get that kill. Or are you always trying to put this onto, like, their biggest fighter, and hoping that they deny it so that you can mess with them? But again, they're going from 5 dice to 4 dice, and they're killing you, well, with 9 health. In melee, they're killing you in 2. A crit and a hit, let's be honest. Interesting. Interesting. It will, so you see, it's quite easy, I feel, to look at the elite teams, the Marines, and say, this is how this team is going to do, right? But with these teams, it's so much more difficult to know how they're actually going to play. They don't have some obvious things that Marines get, and they shouldn't. We do know the number of models, of course. We've seen the leak. They didn't mention it in this article. I believe they have mentioned it before. And in the box, 9 on the team. That leak came from, it was like the Spanish translators or something back on Reddit, like 2 months ago, I think. And we can, honestly though, if we saw the stats, we knew this was going to be not a 10 model team, right? 3 up save, 9 wounds. Yeah, that's not, you know, and with a power sword, that shouldn't be a 10 model team, really. So that's cool. It also is good because it means if the if the team turns out to be really weak, we know there's another model in the box. They can just say, take another model. Job done. And there you go. And we're getting the Murder Wing tomorrow. That's cool. Okay, well, that's the team. Yeah. So is this team going to be good or not? From what we just saw, so many questions. So many questions. Like, this is a nice data sheet. And I think that it's fair to say that any Sisters of Battle players, adepta sororitas players, should be happy with this team. I think they're going to be more fun to play as and against the novitiates. I think novitiates had to get nerfed a lot because they had mechanics that broke the game, in essence, or broke a lot of teams. And removing game-breaking bugs or features is a good thing to do. Will this team have one of those? Doesn't look like it. And so the real question for this team's power comes down purely to what is the ratio, the balance point, etc., of inspiring your models and then having them die, and then how are you using Ceaseless or the +1 APL? Often you want to use that +1 APL, again, when you're thinking about Marines and how killy they are, you're using that 3rd APL very often to finish a kill. So if you're getting a double kill, you're normally charge, fight, shoot, something like that. This team, obviously, because they're not Marines, doesn't have a fight twice or a shoot twice, just inherently. Maybe one of them does, don't know. But so if you're then, so you're never doing a double fight or a double shoot. So you've always, with that 3rd APL, I mean, obviously you become more efficient. You can throw grenades, smokes or stuns, or you can do mission actions, which is always good, obviously. But you know what? Maybe that's where this team's going to fall down. Maybe they won't have the APL to do mission actions because by the time you've got your extra APL going, you've only got 4 models left, right? And then you're not beating anything. And then maybe you've had to use those benedictions for healing. Or is there a healer in this team? Is there a medic? I don't know. Genuinely, really tough to tell how this team's going to play. To be honest with you, the only thing I can add to that really is that obviously on Saturday, I'll do a full rundown of all of this. And over on my other channel, Tactical Skew, I will be doing a battle report, and it will be Nemclaw into Murder Wing. And the reason I chose that is because I wanted it to be a fun and interesting game where you wouldn't know who would win. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. In tomorrow's video, I will remember to do all of my double hello and my affiliate link stuff, but I clearly forgot today. So, all right. Cool. See you tomorrow. Bye.